I just wanted something that I could do myself, not rely on other people right away.
Got it.
So I could control farmers markets. I could do that. And at the time, I actually enjoyed talking to people.
At the time, no longer?
I'm quite a bit more introverted at this point, yeah. But at the time, I was great. You know, I got behind the table. I could talk about it. I was passionate about what I was doing because all those years teaching just kind of buried me, you know.
That passion sells.
Oh, for sure it does. It definitely comes through in the food. Yeah, no
Sure.
question. That's honestly one of the things we do here, too, is if you're tired of making something, just fucking change it.
Right.
So we change the menu every day. If there's something where a ticket comes in, you're like, Jesus Christ, another risotto. Okay, let's take it off the menu. Okay? I don't want anyone to just be bitter about what they're making because it doesn't come out right. You need to feel the love of the food.
This episode made possible by Restaurant Systems Pro. With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, chef owner of Cornicello, Tim O'Brien. Tim, my man, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Absolutely. Ready to go?
Dude, psyched to have you here. And I'm back home in my hometown right now, connecting with past guests and new guests. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years. There are restaurants that have popped up since starting this podcast. Sure. You weren't around in 2014 at Cornicello when I started this. I remember you opening around 2019 to 2020.
Yeah, right at that wonderful pandemic time.
Out of the gates, man, people started talking about Cornicello. And I was like, let's see how long they can keep this going. We're almost 5 years in now. Yep. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're still sold out how far in advance?
About a month and a half, 2 months.
Month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah.
Booked reservations.
Yes, correct.
Don't want to jinx it. Knock on wood. That's awesome. Congrats. And I'm here because Paul Callahan, aside from you guys just being extremely successful, congrats. Paul Callahan called you out. You got to talk to Tim O'Brien. Really trying to let the industry steer the ship of this podcast, who I talk to. So I can't wait to dive into who you are, how you got to where you are today. But before we get started, and you listen to the podcast, and you know this is coming, you gotta get that motivational, inspirational, ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
Honestly, typically when we're in the kitchen, our thing is get the best ingredients and don't fuck them up.
Get the best ingredients and don't fuck them up. Dive into that.
So we don't want to cheap out on trying to produce traditional, authentic dishes, so we try and find the best ones we can. But at the same time, we're also aware of our, not getting to a whole carbon footprint situation, but we try and use the local products available to us as best we can. Some of those are spot on. Some of those are a close second. But really what we want to do is make sure we're getting the best, healthiest ingredients that we can and highlight those flavors. We're not throwing sauces and foams and shit all over everything. We really want to be true to rustic, cucina povera, Italian cuisine.
Yeah.
So,
and that your background is I mean I know your ancestry is big to you. It's a big part of your branding and the story you're telling. So third generation? Second generation.
Yep.
Do you want to get into that at all?
Yeah, I mean, really, my college experience was maybe a little different than most. I started off going to University of New England, whatever. There was going to be a physician assistant track. Hated it because all you had to do was a couple internships, and all you do is hear people just complain the whole goddamn time. And, well, frankly, that's what I do now. But regardless, I just didn't like it. So then I transferred into Boston, to Emerson College. I love creative writing and writing in general. So got into that, but I didn't live on campus because we couldn't afford to
hindsight being 2020, I would have commuted to Nashua, New Hampshire, knowing the money I would have saved. I went to Daniel Webster.
Oh, okay, Daniel Webster. Oh, we took a couple trips there. But yeah, so I lived with my grandmother. Italian, Viola Marini. And so I lived my college life at my grandmother's house. So
it was just outside of Boston?
Is in Quincy. Yeah. So I was born in Quincy, and then we moved into Wells.
Got it.
And then I went back to Quincy for 5 years.
Somehow ended up with a 207 area code phone
number.
Yeah,
I mean, I kind of grew up in Wells. Really, that was my that's where
Wells, Maine.
Yeah, Wells, Maine, correct. That's where we grew up.
Yep.
And obviously in Wells and Agunquit, it's you either work in a hotel or a restaurant.
Right.
But I've had family members always say that I'm like my great grandmother. Philomena, and I don't know. I maybe at a younger age I just kind of took that on. I'm not sure, but I've always had the cooking gene in me. My brothers also like to cook, but definitely not in the same way I do. I kind of got that Italian love for food and the passion. And so it was always a magnet for me. Even when I went to school, I was working at Bertucci's, doing pizza. I was the only English speaker on the line.
I had the founder of Bertucci's on the show.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Bertucci's, and we're thinking of, I think I did. I've talked to
There's so many, right.
Sometimes I get my wires crossed. So wait, where is your business today? Paint the picture of what Cornicello is today.
What it is today. Today we are a small little trattoria, just putting out fresh handmade pasta with unique regional Italian sauces.
Yeah. What kind of volume are you doing?
We do about 2.5 turns on each table every night.
Okay.
The weekends, I mean,
how many seats?
About 27.
Okay.
And then so we're doing somewhere between 65 and 75 every night, whether it's a Wednesday in February or a Saturday in July. It doesn't matter. It's all the same.
What's your break-even point?
That's a good question. As you'll hear, I'm not one of the accounting genes.
Okay.
My younger brother is big into that. And,
okay.
Maybe in another time we could have teamed up and kind of done more of that, but I don't honestly know.
Well, butts and seats is the first trick to accounting, and you got that part. And if you can solve that part, everything else kind of seems to take care of itself.
Sure.
So good on you for that.
I mean, honestly, my MO is just put out the best goddamn food that we can. I always feel like the rest kind of figures itself out. I know that I've got butts and seats, like you're saying, every single night. I really never kind of sit down and look at all the numbers. Every now and again I do, but as you know, when you talk to other people in the industry, the amount of time I have to actually stop and think about what's going on, pretty nil. I have a great bookkeeper, and she sends me stuff every week, every month, and she's from the industry as well, so she knows all the points that we're looking for. And I always just tell her, like, if anything looks out of the ordinary or isn't sustainable, just let me know. Yeah. And it's been 5 years and I haven't heard anything. So
got it. Do me a favor, pull that mic just a little bit closer with the base, or you can move closer and just tip it up a little bit for me. Yeah, there
how's
you go.
That?
Better.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. We got those refrigerators, I think, in the background.
Right now. Yeah, I'm not going to turn those off.
No, you need those for sure. So I'm curious, you've been pretty much sold out. I mean, not in 2020, it was tough to get started, right?
Yeah.
But once things started to pick back up, you've been pretty much booked.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I say once I became a real restaurant, because the first year was basically takeout.
Right.
Once we were allowed to do indoor seating and I could build the staff back up, we've been full ever since.
What's the furthest out you've been booked for reservations at a point?
Oh, we're fully booked for graduation weekend and some other weekends, which is 8 months away or whatever. But we have people requesting a year, 2 years, because what we found is that people at Phillips Exeter Academy, they have multiple kids that are graduating, so we do a graduation party for one, and then the next kid is 2 years away, so the mother.
We're coming back here.
We've had a couple prepay literally a year in advance.
Wow.
It's a little nutty.
So since things started booking up, 2021, 2022, when things were full open again, have you seen your numbers shift at all in the ability to put out more food, or to have you seen check averages go up? Have you been better about pushing as much as possible on a given night?
Yeah. We do. We honestly don't pay attention to price, and our servers say that people come here to have a dining experience, and they're not looking at the prices. I'm blue collar through and through, and I will never overcharge. I don't charge enough, is what everybody always tells us. Even my landlord says, add $2 to every dish, and I just can't do it. But yes, as far as ingredients are concerned, there are certain dishes that are more profitable than others. Some are it's like a break even, but it's fucking tasty, and I can't see myself charging $45 for a dish, which is probably where the algorithm should take that dish to, but we can't. I just don't want to. I don't want people to feel as though they're not getting a value.
Okay.
So we take whatever ingredients. We're mindful. I mean, I'm not an idiot. I mean, we take some of these ingredients, whether it's from our import company Gustiamo and from Italy, or local products, and we are inherently paying more money for all those ingredients because we are buying the best goddamn ingredients we can. But I also make the pasta every day. I don't really think about paying myself.
Right.
So if I had to pay someone to do what I do and make all the pasta every day, Christ, yeah, the price of the dishes would probably double.
Right.
Yeah.
I gotta ask this question because my dad's like on this kick right now. He's convinced that if you buy pasta or flour from Italy, it's automatically gluten free.
No, no. Yeah, just magic. Yeah, magic flour. No, that's.
I'm gonna play this back for him. Like, I don't know if that's true, Dad. Maybe the quality is a little better. Maybe you think of semolina. I don't know.
No, I like his thought process, but no, I mean, not true. There are certain flours that we get that are very low in gluten. Like tumania is an ancient flour from Sicily. I don't know anybody else that has it, to be honest with you. But tumania, we get that, again, from Sicily. Very low gluten. You have to work with it differently. But other than that, no. I think what your father's probably getting at is that the flours that we get from Italy are
heritage,
mildly, and mildly processed,
right?
If at all, for some of them. Some of them are just not.
Maybe the process of growing the product has less chemicals.
Oh, sure. It's
GMOs.
much more digestible. And we talk about that. I think I have I did a little bit ago. I have a little thing on the back of the menu with a glossary of some terms, and I go over some of the flours. And some of them are more digestible than others. Like if we used an all-purpose flour that's just shit flour from here, your stomach, your gut doesn't like it. The gut health is bad.
You heard it here, Mr. Cacciatore. What you're saying is not true. Stop spinning lies. Sorry to break your heart. So, okay, back to when you said, I'm going to open a restaurant. When did that come into your mind?
2009. I think it was 2009, 2010. 2009. I was teaching, so I got my master's.
How old are you in 2009, if you don't know?
Let's see. Christ, that's 15 years ago, so I was 29. Is that right?
29. Teaching what?
Quick math.
Writing?
I was an English teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, so
where were you?
Secondary English teacher at Shakopee Valley High School in Maine. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. I always use Freiburg as a point of focus where it is, but kind of in the middle of nowhere. So I was there for about 7 years.
7 years. Was it just not doing it for you?
I loved it, to be honest with you. I loved coaching too. I was a coach for the basketball and baseball varsity teams and loved it. But we had administration changes. I think it was the third year in a row of an administration change. And I took everything it's kind of my downfall is I go in 100 and 110%. And so I devised all these lesson plan this. Okay, this administrators, this is our focus. Okay, let's do that. And next year, we're not doing that anymore. We're focusing on this. And it's like, well, fuck. Yeah. So all that shit's out the window. Start again. And then it happened again. And I was kind of just like, forget it, And so I actually got accepted to another job at Scarborough High School. And then the next day I called them back and said, I'm reneging. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to give this a go. I'm going to give the restaurant world a go.
That was 2009.
2009, correct.
You opened 2019.
2010, I opened my first restaurant in Maine.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did a year of selling pasta at farmers markets.
Okay.
Private parties. We had a lot of friends that helped me get off the ground and spread the word of mouth. And then I did farmers markets and took off there. I mean, every week we would sell out, which was great because it was like you're there for an hour and a half and you sold out. So
were you able to sustain on that? Was it paying the bills?
Yes, at the time. So again, when I took my first teaching job, master's degree, all that, my starting salary, $24,500, and it's like, this is ridiculous, And then, as teaching contracts go, it's $1,000 a year. Right, so I was like, okay, so in 10 years, I'm now only making 30.
Barely out of lower class.
It's just ridiculous, right? Yeah, it just wasn't sustainable.
Arguably still lower class, which is like, these are the people that are like shaped, shaping the future.
For sure. But at the same time, teachers, and I'm guilty of this as well, we complain a lot. I guess I'm far enough removed where I can't really say we anymore, but you get your summers off, you get all these vacations, you get good benefits. So it's like, 24/5, but you get all these little perks. It's kind of nice, but at the same time, it's still not a living wage, I think, at this point. So doing the farmers markets, I was quickly able to make more money just doing that. Like, maybe not in the course of a whole year because the farmers markets aren't every day.
Right.
But my plan was to kind of grow into different farmers markets and do maybe 4. It became very difficult to sustain. And I was like, I need a location, because I had to do like a community kitchen type situation.
Commissary?
Yeah, exactly. So renting space out there. So at the end of the day, the profits weren't very great.
Right.
I was kind of fooling myself by selling out and this and that, and I built all these great farmer connections, which I literally still have to this day, which is awesome. But then I found a spot. And so I said, oh, it's just going to be like a storefront. And then at the same time, I was getting back into kitchens, because, like I said, in Wells and Ogunquit, I grew up working in kitchens, college kitchens, whatever. But when I was teaching, I couldn't do that, so I took some time away, obviously.
Yeah.
Went back into the kitchens, and I was like, I'm just going to learn as much as I can, and make some money and build this place out. And then quickly became a restaurant instead of a storefront for pasta.
So before we move into the restaurant, back to the farmers markets, where do you also have a wholesale business going too? Were you selling to restaurants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is stupid.
Why is that?
I mean, wholesale, you're taking money off the top. You're giving a deal. But at the time, I was okay with it, just because I'm trying to get my name out there.
Right.
So I did do that. I don't think I was really making any money at all. It was just, giving it away.
It was a great deal. Of course, they're going to keep coming back.
I can't complain, right? I mean, here I am, for whatever that is. But we did a good job getting the name out there, getting it going, and then
So when you started with the farmers market, why was that the path then? Why did you think that was the right path for you to start doing farmers markets and wholesale? And
that's a good question. I think ultimately, I'm not a great delegator of tasks. I'm definitely not like a control freak. I think anybody that's worked with me and for me would echo that as well. But I just wanted something that I could do myself, not rely on other people right away.
Got it.
So I could control farmers markets. I could do that. And at the time, I actually enjoyed talking to people.
At the time, no longer?
I'm quite a bit more introverted at this point, yeah. But at the time, I was great. I got behind the table. I could talk about it. I was passionate about what I was doing, because all those years teaching just kind of buried me, know.
That passion sells.
Oh, for sure it does. It definitely comes through in the food. Yeah, no question. That's honestly one of the things we do here too, is if you're tired of making something, just fucking change it.
Right.
So we change the menu every day. If there's something where a ticket comes in, you're like, Jesus Christ, another risotto. Okay, let's take it off the menu. Okay? I don't want anyone to just be bitter about what they're making, because it doesn't come out right. You need to feel the love in food. So, but farmers market was great in that sense.
How long did you do that?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half?
Yeah, pretty quick.
And then how did the retail opportunity come onto your radar?
Well, it never really developed. I mean, I was building the restaurant out to do that, and it just turned into a full-scale restaurant as opposed to retail. And I told all my farmers market regulars, like, we're going to be doing fresh pasta sales at I never could. I couldn't keep up with it. So that just never happened.
So you had this opportunity to increase your wholesale and retail. It was just because everything had to go through you? Like, did things bottleneck at you? Like, you couldn't keep up with the demand?
That was a big part of it. Yeah, for sure it was. I mean, I couldn't bring enough pasta to the farmer's market. I don't think there was ever a farmer's market where I didn't sell out.
So how was a restaurant the solution to that?
I'm not sure it was a solution. Okay. It was the next step. I'm not sure it's a solution, but it was the next step, and it allowed me to, I think, get more value for what I was doing.
Where was your first restaurant?
Brunswick, Maine.
Brunswick, Maine. Okay.
Yeah.
It's a coastal town.
Yeah, very, very similar to Exeter. I mean, you grew up in Exeter, and we had, instead of Phillips Exeter Academy, we have Bowdoin College up there. You get a nice walkable, historic downtown. Demographics very similar. 20 minutes outside of Portland as opposed to outside of Portsmouth. So Brunswick was a great spot, and honestly, paramount for me was the location of farms. And there are quite a few wonderful farms up in that area.
The culture around the farms, too, the support that they get, I think is only increasing right now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There's no question. I think that you're seeing a younger generation really just kind of take and run with it. Instead of mass producing, they produce smaller quantities, but they understand restaurants now.
Yeah, there's definitely a shift in values happening, and it keeps me hopeful. I mean, there's definitely an issue with our food system, down to the point where it's like it's like rippling down to our health. And there's a lot of people right now. Ways to Well is this company that's just popping up. I was listening to a Joe Rogan episode, and this guy is talking about like we're so sick as a nation, and it all starts with the food. Like if we shift the culture around food, and this is why I think the restaurant industry literally has the power to change the world, is because one, we can choose to source from these farms that are doing it right, to support them, and two, we are consumer facing, where we are the first touch point that consumer comes in contact with us, so we can educate them on, if you eat this whole food, you will be healthier, you'll be happier, it will be better for the community. And I think everyone's like, it will never happen. Like, I think if we shift the culture and the values of society to say, you know what, maybe you don't need 10 subscription services. Maybe you don't need a new pair of jeans every couple months. Maybe you don't need the latest technology that's coming out. Like, what you need is community and good food. And like, that solves a lot of problems.
What up, Unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklists, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
What's going through your mind?
I think I get pretty passionately annoyed and angry at some of the restaurants that open up. I feel like if you're opening up a restaurant in 2024 and you're not even at least considering using local products, and I'm not saying everything needs to be a vegan product or vegetarian or this and that, but know where the hell your food's coming from. Right. And that's the biggest thing for me. You watch any of these documentaries on these meat farms in Texas or wherever they may be, you know, the pork houses in Carolina, it's fucking gross.
I mean, it's where the majority of the meat's being produced, but it's not the entire story.
No.
And people are like the meat industry is so bad for the environment. It could also be the solution. You know, if you think of like regenerative farming.
Okay, and I think that's what we get here in small town New England, right? I've made it a focus of mine to work with farms from day one, and it's never changed. It's only become more of a focus for me. And you get these grass-fed signifiers and some of these things. They may not really be roaming around. Maybe they just get fed some grass or something. You know, it's not free range. So I want to know where I'm buying meats from. That's definitely a focus. And can we change that? Yes, but I don't know. It's the chain restaurants and those things where they just buy these mass quantities of just shit product, and then they have the gall to charge $28 for something, and it's like, fuck you. Like, that's shitty beef, just shitty product, and you're just proliferating that sentiment, and then you're making it more difficult for little places like myself, where it's like, I'm buying significantly more expensive, better quality, sustainable products, and only charging a few dollars more.
Right. Well, on the flip side of that, and I talk to people from all walks of the restaurant industry, right? So I tend to land very in the middle, and I see both sides. The argument to that is like, we've got to be fiscally responsible. Yeah. Like, we got to create opportunity for other people. We need to make a profit. We need to compete with our, there's competition out there. We need marketing budget. And like, to do all those things, you need to save money, buy in volume, like look for the best price in the market.
Sure.
So you can make a profit. And I don't think that that's necessarily bad.
Yep.
I think that the fundamental issue is that franchise, that corporation is reverse engineering what the consumer wants.
Yeah.
And the consumer wants more for less.
Sure.
So I think it all goes back to the consumer again. Is like the consumer needs to be educated.
But they have those corporate places have the pockets to take less profit. They have the backing and the ability to take losses for years on end, but they see that they're going in the right direction, so they can pocket it. Small places like myself, where it's just a singular chef-owned individual. I don't come from money. I don't have any money, but I don't have that luxury, and I still have to stick with my morals and values.
Right.
Whereas they're looking at the profits, and as you always see the sign, people over profits. Going back to what I said at the very beginning, I don't even know what my break-even point is. I'm more focused on making sure that people that come in here are having a great experience and they're eating food that they can trust. I have multiple people that come in that are quote-unquote vegetarians, but they come in and they eat meat here. This is like their splurge, they always say, because they know that I'm not doing what some of those places do.
Right.
And I'm not sourcing things like that. So I get pretty angry when chain restaurants come in. I keep saying chain restaurants. It's not just chain restaurants. There's plenty of shitty restaurants out there that buy crap. But you see a big Cisco truck in front of somebody, and it's like, oh, okay, I know where everything's going right now.
Right.
I can't deal with that. It's 2024. Buy some local products. Even if it's like 2 or 3 items on your menu, at least push for that.
Right.
There's one of the greatest experiences I had. I used to travel to Italy every year for probably about a decade. And there was one town I went to called Suvereto. It's a southern Tuscan city, and it's a slow city. So città slow is what they call it, and in the slow food movement. But what a slow city is basically the restaurants take an oath or agree that they're only sourcing local products. So every olive oil that you get in that entire city is from a local producer. And every restaurant has to have at least one dish that is a traditional dish of that area. And I was like it was kind of like something went off. So I get back to Brunswick, of course, and I'm like, let's try and do this. So I start talking to people in town and this and that. And it wasn't until maybe the third person, the first person I talked to was like, oh, this is great. And I talked to some farmers. This is great. And then it was one like, no, we can't afford to do that. Not doing that. I was like, come on, let's just get some tomatoes, something simple, whatever. Blueberries. What it was, I was actually talking to a breakfast place. And I'm like, just use maple syrup. Just use real maple syrup. Why use that other shit? Like, we're in Maine. Christ, And they're like, no, I'd have to charge way more. And it was just so
back
trite.
to culture.
Yeah.
It's a cultural issue,
man. I
think that's also on the food industry, and we as the food industry over 30-40 years, and I'm not saying like at the individual level, but like collectively, we conditioned the consumer to think that the value of a burger was $5.
Sure.
So like we have to take some blame. Like we got here.
Well, who's we?
The food manufacturing production.
Okay,
industry.
so not like society. Are you talking about the producers or the consumers?
I think they go hand in hand. There's a relationship there, and I think that America for the longest time was about production, consumerism, more for less. Just like how can we squeeze the most amount of money out of the least amount of work. Right.
Yeah.
And that was like the American culture for a long time. I think we've gone so far in that direction that, the Gen Xers and the millennials and the Gen Yers are like the unfortunate beneficiaries of that world where we're all obese and unhealthy and can't eat bread and have all these whoa, what do we do? Our grandparents got rich and now we're like, what is this world we're in? But I think all it takes is that the thing that's really cool about culture is that it can change exponentially. We watch one video of a turtle with a straw stuck in its nose and we're like, straws are banned. So that's an example of how fast things can change if you can strike a chord with society and say your decisions matter. So I think it's just more of like echoing that and educating people and shifting the values. And I think that if we band together as restaurants, and we, educate people, and I think that the one thing that I think is saving us, I think consumers are inherently selfish. People are inherently, what's in it for me? And I think what we're learning, your health is in it for you. You don't want to have cancer. You don't want to be obese. You don't want, like, it all starts with the food. And like the going back to the way that they're doing it in the city in Italy is an example of what we can do to literally shift overnight and to change the health epidemic in the country. And when you make it about the consumer and what's in it for you, then things start to shift.
Yeah, I think the hard part is that it's not immediate. Like the effects are not immediate. You may not see these issues until you're 60 or 70 or 30 years.
But it's happening. Look where we've come in the past 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information out there. There's so much information, but there's also so much disinformation. Some people just pretend it's not real. Things aren't happening. A lot of products that we have in the U.S. are not allowed in the European Union because of the health ramifications of it. People just, kind of poo-poo that. And I think that if we become more aware, like you're suggesting, then yes, we certainly can. And that's definitely what we're trying to do. I think smaller establishments that we're not force-feeding local products to people, but that's what we're doing. And I think people are seeing the benefits of that. But again, it's a slow burn, to some extent.
Right. Well, we gotta keep that, stoking that fire.
Yeah, for sure.
So back to Brunswick, you open your first restaurant. What were the challenges with that? Like, first time restaurateur, like kind of just winging it sounds like.
Yeah, it kind of was. It kind of was. I mean, I knew the restaurant industry obviously decently, but honestly, one of the harder parts was entrusting servers to be the mouthpiece for what I'm producing. So a dearth of information every single day, and I kind of wore the servers down by like trying to give a backstory in every dish, and every day it was a different menu. And so they have to learn new things. And that was difficult because I wanted to go out and talk to the tables about how fortunate of an experience it is to have something like this. But you can't because you're in the kitchen cooking. I didn't have a dishwasher, so you're also doing the dishes, all that stuff.
Was there ever a tipping point where they caught on to that, or was it just a continuous struggle?
I think it was the ones that appreciated that thrived. Others that didn't put the effort into it wouldn't last. I've always had a great track record with employees staying for years on end, which in the restaurant industry is pretty rare. But yeah, I think my values came through with the passion about the food, and I think some of the servers realized that, and they wanted to do good by me and do good by the food that I'm producing, and it works. So I don't think there was ever a tipping point. I think sadly nowadays, like fast forwarding, I haven't had the time to really go over all of those nuances with the staff. We have a quick little pre-service meeting to go over some things, but frankly, the servers will tell you, I'm printing the menu at 4:29 and we open at 4:30, and there's people standing outside waiting to come in, and I write scribble notes on the back of a menu and tell the servers, here it is. Ideally, it's not like that. Fortunately, we've had a great staff here for quite a few years, and so they now have a recall of the dishes. But when first starting up, I was doing something different. In 2010, fresh pasta wasn't like everywhere. I think now fresh pasta is fairly common. I think the way that we do it is not common at all. But I was introducing something very new up there. And it took a lot of education, but that was great because that's what I was doing. I was an educator. I love that shit. And that's why I was so great at the farmers markets. I was able to educate people, and then they look at this one agnolotto, and they're like, that's not just this. They imagine it to be even more than it is, because I'm not trying to sell them on it, but they appreciate it. Every orecchiette, it's my finger on that. Every single one of those, and I got to do thousands of those, and people appreciate it. I think the ones that don't appreciate it and they just want to come in and they're looking for a $12 burger and beer deal, they come in once and they don't come back. And that's fine. I have no issues with that. Again, my family, extended family, we're all extremely blue collar. We grew up on Italian American food, not bougie Italian food as some of my
lots of parm.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, that's kind of what we did. But sorry, I digressed. I'm not even sure where we were going with
that. So basically back to your first restaurant. I'm curious about the struggles. This first time restaurateur, you said the struggle was translating the passion and the knowledge to the frontline staff to communicate that to the consumer. I'm curious, like, why leave that location? Like, what was it, like, 10 years you spent there?
No, I was actually only there for about four years.
2010
it was a small,
to 2014?
Yeah, and then 2014. So 2010 to 2013 was a small little place. I mean,
how many seats?
In that one, I think it was like 20.
Okay.
Maybe 20. It was small, but within a month, outgrew it. And then in year number 2, really had things down. Things were going really well.
Profitable?
Yeah, it was profitable for sure. It was. And then looked at another location down the street, literally for shits and giggles. I just wanted to see what it looked like. And then you walk in, and the space kind of spoke.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, I'm actually going to do this.
How many seats were in that one?
That one's about 70.
70, okay. That's a big
so
jump.
I operated both for a little bit of time. And then moved on from the smaller location and focused all efforts.
Different brands, or?
Yeah, one was more like the original location was intended to be more fine dining,
right?
More intricate pasta shapes.
White tablecloth, or?
No, I never liked tablecloths. Yeah. Just the linen
expense.
stuff. Yeah, expense, and then the wastewater, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I was, very environmentally aware at the time.
Yeah.
And the other location was supposed to be more of a wine bar.
Okay.
That's really what it was opened up as, was a wine bar with little small plates. But it found a vein and just kind of went in a different direction. And so then the wine bar turned more into a full sit-down restaurant. And then, so I closed the other place and focused entirely on that place, and then grew that from 2013 to 2020.
Okay, why not run both?
They were down the street from each other, and there was a lot of crossover.
Okay.
When
you opened the second location, did the first location start to struggle?
No.
Okay.
No, it really didn't. It was actually, I had a staff that would kind of run one while I was at the other, and they're just it became too much, to be honest with you, kind of going back and forth.
What was the struggle?
And trusting that the staff can fully handle things on their own without me there. I had some great people working there, but there was always couple things just off or amiss, and at the time I would read reviews, and it's kind of thin-skinned, so you read a bad review and it's like, shit, and staff meeting, here we go, address this, and then same thing another night, it's like, this shouldn't be like this, whatever, and it's like, who knows what this person
What were
is?
the reviews that you were getting?
Some of them were just negative reviews because I didn't have chicken parm, or something like that. Some of them were service issues. Some of them were...
what kind of service issues?
Lack of wine knowledge was a big one. If people were spending that kind of money.
At the first location?
Yep. And the second location. The second location had more issues than the first. The first one really was pretty smooth because that's where I spent most of my time. The second one, it was me trying to translate a small focus into a big space, and it was I wasn't ready to do like burn and turn type meals. I was still trying to cook everything a la minute, all the order, and everything made fresh, local farms every day, all that. And boy, that was fucking tough.
Right.
And I kept wearing people out. Like I was kind of a maniac with working. You just don't work less than 14 hours a day.
So how long before you closed the first location?
It was 4 years. So it was an operation for 4 years. The last year, maybe half a year, was kind of like only 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And I would kind of use that as like an event space.
Got it.
So I quickly had to be solely in charge of the new location. So the other one was when I could afford time to get over there, because the new spot was 6 days a week. So in that sense, it was actually difficult to find and afford somebody to run a kitchen.
Yeah.
Very difficult, because again, when you're making the pasta by hand, affording that kind of time while paying them to produce these things was just not sustainable. So I had to get in there early and help with that, and then go back to the other restaurant, and then and then a sous chef would call and be like, I don't have enough time. We're gonna open in an hour, and I don't have any of this done. So I'd leave my spot and then go over there, help try and get things back up to running, and then go back in time to open the doors.
What was the breaking point for you?
That's a good question. I think there was just a reality that, I don't know. Honestly, it was a tough time in life. Kind of a failed marriage.
Okay.
Was in there, trying to balance work with life. I just never made any time for anything but work. And yeah, I don't know what the tipping point was. There had to have been something, but it all kind of melded together. And
sometimes you got to slow down to speed up. You gotta shed some weight. You gotta regroup, and it sounded like you recognized that like you could only do so much.
Yeah.
So if you had to choose one.
Yep, and that's really what it was. And the lease ran up on one, and that allowed me the chance to leave that location. So instead of re-signing that lease, I decided to just move on to just one.
How did things change when you had that one location?
Well, it was great for a while, to be honest with you.
What was great about it?
I was able to connect with the staff instead of having to call and check in or run in the morning and then go back to the other spot. I was there all the time, for better or worse. But it allowed things to run smoothly, and if there were any issues, I was there. And I was able to fix them or at least help. Definitely not. I've never been an owner that just stands off to the side and just, I'm leaving today, guys. I'm going on a trip. Nope. I'm always there in the trenches every single day.
Were there points of evolution for you as a restaurant owner in terms of like, this is the better way to do something? Like, what were like the struggles and tipping points and like your points of becoming a better restaurateur?
Yeah, I think when I was able to take a step back and meet with some of the cooks or sous chefs or whatever name you want to give people, I was not big on titles, to be honest with you. It was we just did it all together. But when I could take a step back and show them how to do something, and they would learn right then. I'm slowing things down on that day, but it pays dividends. So then I can delegate. I really had to learn how to delegate things. Like I said, I was going to Italy every year.
Right.
I would take classes over there and meet people, and the food knowledge that I had over there, whereas I have people that I'm working with that have never been to Italy. So I need to somehow show them the essence of Italian cooking, and have them get that and to understand so they can create things on their own in the same paradigm that I'm doing. So we all needed to slow down, think about what we're doing, and collectively understand our mission. And then from there, you can kind of go out, and then I can trust you to go create this dish. I can trust you to do this dish, and I'm just picking up pieces.
So it sounds like you recognize the significance of understanding your why, your purpose, your mission.
Yeah.
Were you not as good about communicating that earlier on, or like what did you do to make that better?
I think so. I think, again, I'm very focused. And when I get in the kitchen, I don't talk much. I'm pretty quiet. I'm a pretty boring guy. And so a lot of times I'm putting more on myself than maybe I should. That was healthy at the time. So being able to understand other people want to contribute. They want to help. They want to take a load off my shoulders. So for me to kind of let my guard down and be like, okay, you know, your pappardelle may not be perfect. I want it to be perfect, but I have to be okay with something being maybe not as perfect as it can be. I struggle with that today. I know not everything is going to be the same. You know,
right.
Your grandmother makes something and somebody else tries to duplicate it. You know, you have the same recipe, but it doesn't come out the same way.
Right.
But it's still great. You know, it's still very good. And so I need to be able to do that.
It's part of the struggle, too, with having a new menu almost every day.
Yep.
Is you don't get to really train people on how to perfect it.
Yeah, and there's pros and cons for sure. I think one of the pros, people like to work with me because they can create. Hey, go to the farmer's market, get whatever you want, come back, give me an entree special, and we're good. Just have it ready by 4 o'clock so I can type it in the menu, and we're good. And people that are self-motivated and they're able to understand that Italian paradigm that I'm talking about, and like you said, the mission that I had, if they're in that and they get it, they thrived. They loved it. I mean, I've multiple former employees that have gone on, started their own places, and they found a lot of value in understanding that mission. So it worked. Yeah.
So you said before you mentioned that you got better about delegating.
Yep.
But you also mentioned before that with here, one of your challenges is delegating.
Yeah.
So how did you get better, and what more work do you have to do, in your opinion?
Again, you spoke earlier. There's a work-life balance. That's
right.
The catchphrase these days, and I fully support it and agree with it. And there's a realization. So actually, once I sold the restaurant up in Brunswick and focused solely down here.
So you had 2 restaurants again at one point. Brunswick
Yeah, I was driving back and forth from Exeter to Brunswick.
Wow.
Yeah, it was stupid. But that's a whole nother story we can get into. I had a sale of the restaurant, then it fell through. Another sale of the restaurant fell through, and then
So were you trying to sell the restaurant before coming down to Exeter?
Yeah, I actually had it all sold, and we had everything tied up, all done, and so I started to look for places down here. I was actually looking anywhere. I had, a focus. I wanted a main street. I wanted something walkable, and I had my points that I was looking for. So that was all buttoned up, and then I think it was 2 days before the sale of the restaurant, for some unknown reason, my landlord up there vetoed the whole thing. I already leased a place out in Exeter because we knew it was done. I was moving things out of there. I was leaving my house. All these things, it was a done deal. And then 2 days, maybe 3 days before the closing, the landlord said he didn't approve of it. So my lawyer and the buyer's lawyer and the realtor were all like, what the hell is this guy's problem? So they all tried everything they could, and the landlord just wouldn't do it. And there was no good reason. And then it was held up in litigation because there was some potential racist, reasoning for the landlord to not sell it.
Was it going to be the business that you were selling, or did you own the bill? You owned the business.
I owned it was the business that was.
So they were taking over an Italian restaurant.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. And my landlord approved at the beginning, and then a couple days before he did not. And then
did it ever come out in the conversation?
No, they just dropped it, and the potential buyer ended up moving.
Okay.
Yeah, it was devastating for me. It really fucked me up. Financially, everything, because at that point, I'm in 2 places.
Right.
I was not planning on being a Brunswick.
Is this 2019?
2009. Actually, this was, I think, 2018.
18. Okay.
And then 2018, maybe it was 2019. No, 2018. Then 2019, that was COVID, right? Was that
2020? March 2020 is when COVID dropped hard.
And then, so maybe it was 2018, and then Oh, Christ. Yeah. Regardless, I had it sold again, and then it was I want to say right when COVID started being a news topic.
Right. COVID started in 2019.
Yeah, so I think that's what it was. Yeah, so 2019, I sold it again, and it was a few weeks before the final thing, and then COVID really started.
Yeah, it took a few months for it to be
traction.
a global pandemic. That was in 2020.
And so the potential buyer just talked to me, said, listen, I know contractually I'm buying the restaurant. I can't back out at this point. I'm just asking you as one potential business owner to another, can I back out of this because of all the stuff with COVID? We talked about it for a bit, and I realized that if I was selling it to him, it became clear that restaurants were going to get shut down, all that stuff that started coming out, and he would have just been fucked.
Right.
And I, again, whether it was the right thing or not to do, I think personally it was the right thing to do. I allowed him to back out, and I said, it's all good.
Yeah.
So then I maintained the restaurant again.
Wow.
And then.
What was the reason for selling that restaurant in the first place, just to go open another restaurant?
It was too big.
Too big.
It was
70 seats.
It was too big.
Why? What made it too big?
I couldn't do the handmade pasta. I ended up buying a pasta extruder, which is great. You know, it's fantastic. It's still up there now, and they still use it. I just don't. I didn't. It
wasn't for you.
Yeah, it wasn't. And I actually wanted to go full circle, and I wanted to get back to farmers markets. So when I thought I had the restaurant sold, I actually had applications, and I paid for all these farmers markets
in Exeter.
Yeah,
the Seacoast.
Yeah, at Dover, Exeter, all in the area. And that's what I was planning on doing. I rented a space down the street, and then I was building it out with my brothers. And
what was the place down the street?
It's 121 Water Street, so it's just down the way a little bit. But it's just a small little place. And
was it just going to be retail?
It was just going to be retail.
Why did you come full circle? What was happening in your life to say that, like, no, I had it right before?
Because I had no life.
Okay.
Yeah. There was nothing. It was work. Just work. Again, I love getting lost in work, but you do anything for, that long of a time, that many hours a day, and little things just grate on you. And you start to realize, I can't go to so-and-so's birthday party. I'm missing this, life events that I'm not able to go to. And then on Sundays when I'm able to go somewhere, I'm just trying to stay awake, quite literally, like as a fog, because it's 7 days a week, 15, 14 hours a day at least.
Yes. I mean, sometimes we have a vision of what we need and what the next natural progression is. And we get it in our head that this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, we need to get bigger. We need to do more. I kind of feel like I experienced that with Restaurant Unstoppable, where I was like, the next step for me is to be on the road 4 to 5 months at a time, traveling across the country, going to all these different places. And you do that thing and you're like, oh shit, what did I do? Like, I love this. I love what I'm doing. I love my work, but I haven't seen a familiar face in, 4 or 5 months.
And it almost becomes you. And Restaurant Tim wasn't who I wanted to be. I used to be fun and do all sorts of stuff, and I was always working out, basketball leagues, baseball leagues, and it's all just stopped. For a solid 5 years I just did nothing, and so I was like, fuck this. So that's why I wanted to be down here.
I think David Peach, why can't I think of his last name? David who's that? Momofuku. Why can't I think? Chang. Thank you. He had like this documentary that was like talking about where your food came from, and he kept on going back to just balance. Like there's like you have to experience extremes in your life to like figure out where the sweet spot is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And almost everything, there's like a certain level of balance that needs to be found. And what are your core values? I'm curious. Like, have you taken the time to really sit down and just like write out like these are the things that matter the most to me?
I would say I haven't done that. I'm not the best at introspection. I kind of just do.
It's really cool. There's resources today that maybe I can't think of them off the top of my head. There's different tests you can take to become better self-aware and to really like to figure that out. What's that?
You can just send them.
They're really great tools. Yeah. I mean, there's PI, Predictive Index. We've had Ed Doherty on the show to talk about really just understanding what kind of communicator you are and how you work well with others. But then there's more personal, like these are the things that really, really matter to me, these tests. If I had my other computer, I could pull it up because I have it bookmarked. But just really taking that time to fully understand who you are, what your values are, and then to reverse engineer the business that serves you. I think is so important.
It would be very beneficial, I think, at some point for me to kind of look into that. I think the way I operate is my values, morals, and what I'm trying to accomplish comes out in how I work.
Would you say you're self-aware?
I am self-aware.
So if you had to tell me right now, if you had to do a little exercise with me, what do you think the most important thing to you is? If you could just get one thing, make it top priority, this is my biggest core value.
With regard to the restaurant, correct?
Just you. I think behind every great restaurant is a great person, right? And I think your restaurant is a reflection of your values, your vision, your mission. I
mean, I'd have to say over the years, really one that keeps coming back for me is hard work. Like I don't know as if that's the best one because my college roommate and I go back and forth. We have completely different tracks. He's in the corporate world and I'm in this greasy blue collar world. And we'll send messages back and forth about our typical work days and whatnot. And I have this belief that I'm just going to keep working hard and doing what I'm doing. And it's going to be great for me, the people around me, and society. And there are times where he's like, corporate life is stupid. This is ridiculous. I'm getting paid all this money and they're telling me not to come to work, and we'll see the juxtaposition between the two. But I mean, hard work for me is really at the core of who I am.
What is hard work?
Yeah, that's a good question. But I think I'm never afraid to get into something, get dirty, and see it all the way through. I think there are a lot of people who start things and kind of just let it go, or they pass off tasks that may be, not something for Instagram to see. I do dishes here probably once every other week, and literally not just like scrubbing a few pans. It's a full goddamn shift of doing dishes. And I think being able to do any task head on, battle adversity. I'm tired, not in the best mental state of mind, but I'm gonna fight through it, and I'm gonna work hard and come out on the other side better. That's my belief.
Yeah. So, first core value: hard work. We work hard.
Yeah.
What's the next most important thing to you?
I think responsibility.
What's that mean?
Whether I'm being responsible for life choices or what I'm putting on the menu, I want to make sure that things are. I'm not trying to be a used car salesman and sell a lemon or anything. I want everyone to know what it is that they're doing, what they're eating, what we're doing in the kitchen. That's why we've always had open kitchens. I want people to be able to see what we're doing. So I want to be responsible for the product that goes out. And that was one of the issues I had up in Brunswick is when I'm not there, I'm still responsible for the food that's going out, but I may not be thrilled with what it was. And I think I think all restaurants need to have that sense of responsibility for their guests. People are spending a lot of money at restaurants, and it's not easy to spend $150 on a dinner. And I want to make sure that I'm treating them appropriately.
So I'm looking, as you're talking, I'm looking up these tools because I figured out I could get access to it through my Google Sheets.
Okay.
One of them is called Storywells, and it helps you understand your archetypes.
Okay.
That's story, like you tell a story, and well, like where you get the water. Storywell.com. If you guys want to check this out. And there's another one that helps you find your values. That one I found and I'll try to, maybe by the end of the episode, I'll try to find that. I'm trying to find the link. Foundation prompts. Wait, no. So down here, manifesto, alpha custom journey, funnel hub, newsletter, Facebook. All right. But it helps you find your core values. And I think we have similar core values. One of my core values that I was able to articulate by taking this test, that's escaping my mind right now, I apologize, is that my biggest core value is freedom. And then right off the heels of learning that, I read the book 10X is easier than 2X. Where if you try to 10X your business, it's actually easier than trying to 2X your business.
Okay.
So an example of 2Xing is opening a second restaurant, right? Where you're working twice as hard.
Yeah, wasn't easy.
But 10Xing means you can't 10X. You literally don't have the physical means to 10X yourself. So to 10X, you figure out what is the thing that I want to do? What is the thing that is like what fills my mother effing cup? And I'm going to focus on doing that, the 20% of the things that I love,
I get that.
And then outsourcing, delegating the 80% of the things that have to happen, but doesn't make sense for me to do it, right? And what I learned in that book, they talked about freedom. Freedom, there's 4 types of freedom. Freedom of money, freedom of relationships, freedom of purpose, and freedom of, did I say time yet?
Nope.
Freedom of time. And I was like, holy shit, like that is like all those things. Like I want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with who I want to do it. And I don't want to be restricted by money.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of people in the restaurant industry are like that. I kind of hear that with you. You wanted freedom. Like you were scaling these businesses, but you lost yourself in the process.
Yes.
The things that you love to do. And I hear that you want the freedom to do the things that fill your cup, the freedom to get your hands in the flour and eggs and to roll your thumb over each individual, because that's the freedom to educate people and to spread the message. And you chose to go back to that. But what happens is, like, if you want freedom of purpose, you might lose freedom of money. If you want freedom of time, you might lose freedom of money. But I think one of your values too is that the money isn't that important to you. From the story that you're telling,
Correct.
like you're more interested in doing the work you like. Am I?
Yeah, no, that's
striking a
100% accurate. Yeah. I'd be curious to look at those, to do one of those tests.
Yeah, I'll definitely share them with you.
Yeah, what you said is spot on.
What up, unstoppable restaurant owners and operators? We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that Restaurant Unstoppable and Restaurant Systems Pro, we're taking our relationship to the next level. Beginning in July of 2024, Fred Langley, CEO of Restaurant Systems Pro, is making himself available once a week in Restaurant Unstoppable Network to answer all of your restaurant systems questions, whether it's be profit margins. He will look at your P&L. Bring your P&L. He will take a look at that. He will dissect it. He will help you find your profit, whether that be through budgeting, inventory management, costing recipe cards, labor, checklist, you name it. He is a master of restaurant systems, and he's making himself available to you. Fred Langley and Restaurant Systems Pro started as a consulting firm, and for over 16 years, they've been helping their clients increase their profit by 10% or more. What are you waiting for? Click the link below to join our Facebook group, Restaurant Unstoppable Network.
So do you feel like you have better freedom today?
Yes, 100%. Again, we're only open 4 days a week. We do events, so it's 5 days. Obviously, you've spoken with many owners. It's not like there's really a true day off. Even on a day off, I'm still shopping for the restaurant or doing payroll or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think that I have the freedom now where I can look at my staff and be like, hey guys, you got this under control. I'm going to head out early. I'm going to come in early, but I'm going to leave early, or I'm going to come in late and stay late. I have the freedom to do those types of things. I have a great kitchen staff right now. I couldn't be happier with that situation. So I think I couldn't have that kind of freedom unless I was able to responsibly teach them and get them up to speed with what I'm looking for. So through teaching and education comes that kind of freedom, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what was it about? So that we identified that the Wells location, 70 seats, was too much. What was it about 11 Water Street when you found this space?
Well, I didn't even really actually find it. My landlord at the other spot, when I was opening up the retail shop, he said, hey, do you have a minute? And I said, yeah, what's up? I was still building that place out. I mean, I had it all set up. I redid the floors, the paint, all the shit. And I said, "What's up?" And he's like, "I just bought a building and I've never been in there before." And I said, "Okay." He's like, "It was a restaurant. Can you come with me and look at it?" And I said, "Okay. I guess you just buy buildings, whatever."
What a great building. I mean, old building.
Yeah.
Beautiful view.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I said, "Okay." So I walked in. I met him here, and he said, "There's a restaurant in here now, but
the Dam View."
It was the Dam View, and then after that,
11 Water Street.
11 Water Street.
Yeah.
And so my landlord was like, they're leaving. I think it was June or July. I think it was July, actually, like middle of July. They were being asked to leaving, whatever the circumstance was. It didn't concern me. But he's like, "Do you want this space?" And I said, "Well, I spent however many months building this place out." And he's like, "But just look at it." And I did. I walked in and looked around, and just like you said, the view was ridiculous. Oh, yeah. And there was instant potential. And the more I crunched numbers, which I'm not prone to do, but I'm not dumb. It's so much more profitable to have people in seats and me cooking them meals as opposed to wholesaling pasta. You can only charge so much for wholesale pasta.
Right.
So I said, "Let me think about it." And that lasted all of a couple hours. And I said, "Yeah." So I
smaller than your last location. You went from 70 to what did you say,
sure.
27?
Yeah, about 27 seats. Yep. So it kind of fit the bill. And at the time, I knew the sale at the restaurant up in Brunswick fell through again because of COVID and everything. So I wasn't going to have that money from the sale available to me. So I couldn't just hang out and make pasta and be happy with a little extra, money in the coffers. That wasn't happening. So I needed to get back on the horse and figure out a way to make money between the two spots. So again, long-term plan was still to move on from Brunswick and then take over this space. So
and at this time, you mentioned before, you were also feeling you wanted to dial back. You wanted to focus on getting your hand in the flour again.
Yep. It's just small production. That's really what was important to me, was being present for every single dish.
Were you ever able, so eventually you sold the Brunswick business, or what?
Yes, my general manager took it over. My general manager and bar manager. I told them, I said, "Listen, Carla, I'm closing the restaurant." I just got to a point, it was actually 3 sales that fell through. So 3 different times sales were purchase and sale agreement, all there, right down to the wire. And I just had enough at that point because I saw what this place was and I was going to make it. And I couldn't pass this up because at the time I also felt distant from my family because I was up in Brunswick and they're all down in the Seacoast area.
Okay.
My parents are in the area, brothers in York, one's in Kingston. So I was always far away and having to drive an hour and a half, 2 hours to every family event.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be closer. We're a tight family.
Right.
So this really fit. So I just told Carl, I said, I'm closing the restaurant on this date. If you are interested in buying the assets, that's fine. I'm not selling the business anymore.
Do you mind me asking where you get the money to open restaurants? If you were a teacher before this, and like, how did you actually make that work?
Well, I didn't do anything. So all the money I was making at the restaurant in Brunswick just stayed there.
Do you know a percent profit that you were making? I know your brother's the number guy.
Percent profit, I don't know. We were pulling in good money up in Brunswick for probably a 4-year stretch.
What was like the average gross during that time?
I guess it would be somewhere around, I think maybe 100 and, the net was somewhere around 160,000 a year.
160,000 a year.
And was
70
making
seats?
That. Yep.
And what were you taking home?
For sale, well, I learned the hard way that paying myself $20,000 a year is a bad idea because more money was left in the restaurant account and then taxing and whatever. So I learned that quickly that I should give myself a salary. But I still only gave myself a salary of, I think, $40,000 a year.
Still a pay raise from your
for
previous.
sure. That's kind of what it was, right? Like, I mean, if I was teaching for 15 years,
I'm almost doubling my income.
Right. So, so I mean, the restaurant was making money. I was learning quickly that I need to have a better idea financially how to make myself money. Okay. I can't just take money and use it anyway.
What were your personal liabilities when you opened the restaurant?
None. You know,
loans?
I've always been. I had student loans. Yeah, I had some student loans for sure, but really that was it.
Mortgage?
No, didn't have a mortgage. No, didn't own a house or anything at the time, so it was just rent.
I really do think that is a huge part of one of the variables of opening a restaurant and being successful is getting your personal liabilities to the point where they're almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So everything that you make can go back into the business.
That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to grow the business quickly, is a detriment to my personal life, but was able to reinvest significant money into the location.
What did you have to come up with to get this? You don't own the building. Your friend owns the building.
This particular building? Yeah. No, I just lease.
Okay.
Yep. I just lease this out for my landlord.
And how much money did you need to? I mean, this was kind of turnkey. Ish. I mean, it was a restaurant.
Yeah, I had to replace everything.
Like all the kitchen?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There's not a single piece of equipment or anything from the previous.
And you couldn't pull from your previous restaurants?
No.
Did you have anything in storage from shutting down the first location?
No.
So how much did you need to come up with to get open?
I would guess it was probably around, well, of course, at the time, I was thinking, oh, I'm just taking over a spot.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of stupid me. And I was like, I could probably do this for $35,000. And
so it ended up being $70,000.
Oh Christ, more than that. I wish it was only $70,000.
It's not 150% more.
Yeah, I would say probably at the end of the day, somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 to get this place where it.
Where was the majority of that cost coming from?
Yeah, kitchen equipment, hood system is just huge, and then I got completely screwed by the company that was putting.
They pulled the hood out.
I had the other hood wasn't working, so I had to replace the whole thing. But yeah, I mean it's a whole other story. I'm not gonna bash them or anything. I think they went bankrupt and whatever. But
it was a tough time.
They screwed me over big time.
The previous owners?
No. I never met them or talked to them.
Who's they?
The contracting company to install a lot of the stuff and then to do the electrical and plumbing and some of those things. They double charged my landlord and I. We didn't find that out until way after, and they, whatever. I got hosed.
Yeah.
And of course, this is all right before COVID.
Did you have $120,000 in savings?
I had restaurant from the restaurant money up north.
The sale.
I had not the sale, just in the bank account.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So at $40,000 a year for. You said 8 years, 10 years, 2000.
Well, 40,000 was just my personal one, right? So that's what I would make, and then as far as what was in the account up there,
the business,
I mean, well over 100,000, 200,000.
Okay.
In the account up there, but again, it just sat there, and then I started to actually talk to my brother and my college roommate, who's big with finances. What should I do with this? I should take some of this out and invest it in something.
Yeah.
And that's when COVID happened. So literally when I was planning all that shit out is when COVID happened. And I say I'm not stupid, but I do have stupid moments. I was too hard-headed to take any PPP money. So at the time, my general manager and I are like, we're just going to keep this going, just you and I. I didn't take any of the money.
Why not?
I had this saying in the back from my grandmother, honestly. She said they came over from Italy with nothing and they never asked anybody for anything. And that literally, to this day, is still in my head. Like, asking for money. I just couldn't do it. And again, my friend Chad, he's like, we're getting millions of dollars from the government right now. You should take some of that money. And I said, I can't. I've got money in the bank. I'll be fine. I gather I lost over $150,000 from the pandemic. And it wasn't until the second time around that I actually filled out paperwork and got some. But again, the damage was already done. I screwed myself over. I set myself back big time. If I just took it the first time, my life situation right now and everything would be entirely different because I had good money.
I think the lesson there is if help is being offered, take the help. put your ego aside, put your pride aside.
Absolutely.
You know, it's hard to do. Like, we need help.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to ask for help if you
Yeah.
need it too.
Yep.
You know?
At 1,000,000%, I wish I could go back because, like I said, I mean, I lost 6 figures of money, no question about it.
Yeah.
And I know opening up here, I couldn't get any money because in order to get PPP money, you had to have a tax return.
Well, yeah, you had to be in business. I think it was like at least 4 months before
You needed to file a tax
there was a
return.
period. Yeah.
And I didn't have any. And Nikki from Stock in Dover, same situation. They opened up at the same time we did. We were going back and forth.
I had her on the show as well.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
But we had a similar experience where we're opening up. We can't get any money. So I'm here. I'm already investing tens and tens of thousands of dollars into this place with no people coming in. So I just screwed myself every possible way I could, and the pandemic doubled that.
How'd you get through it?
Hard work.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just focused on this is what I'm doing.
Was there a low point?
A low point? Yeah, I think there was. It was right before opening up. I really had no money left in the account.
What's the month and year?
Well, it was the week of the restaurant closures.
Okay, so March, the end of March.
It was the end of March. Yep, correct. And we had our grand opening that weekend. Literally grand opening. And then it was Wednesday, the word came out that we can't open. And at that point, most people will tell you when you open up a restaurant, you pretty much start that first day with a negative balance or zero balance.
Yeah.
If people don't come through the door, you're screwed. And that's pretty much where I was. I mean, I had nothing in the bank left, and I was waiting to open up because takeout is difficult when you're by yourself. I had my brothers helping me. Thank fucking God. If they didn't help me, there's no way that I would be here right now. Zero chance.
So you eventually took the help from somewhere.
My brothers did. Yep. And that was also the point where I was like, I got to sell this restaurant up in Brunswick. I just can't do this anymore. This back and forth isn't working.
Did that help you?
Yeah. I mean, Carla, I mean, she's fantastic. They bought it, and it was a lot of owner financing. So there's a little bit of money coming to me every month from that for the next however many years.
Got it.
So was there a big chunk of change that went to me? Not really.
Actually, it was another channel of revenue monthly.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah.
I at least had that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was brutal. And at that point, I didn't know what to do, and I was kind of ready to give up.
Yeah.
And
what changed?
I didn't have any other options because I already moved my life down here. Like, I stopped everything up in Brunswick. I wasn't present in that restaurant anymore because Carla, they were running the day-to-day operations. They were doing everything up there, and I was away, so I had no other options.
So this is the third restaurant you're opening at this
Correct.
point.
Yep.
And you said that there was already a couple of things that you were gonna do different this time around.
Yeah.
Like finances, you're gonna do different. You're gonna pay yourself. You're gonna do things.
Yep.
Like what else? Well, coming into this, what was the narrative you were telling yourself? Like, this is what I'm gonna do different through the school of hard knocks. I know now that I don't want to do this again. What were those things?
Yeah. I didn't do a great job of following that, but I told myself, instead of just making things work, paying somebody or doing it myself to set up a structure that is exactly what I want.
What did that structure look like in your mind?
Well, I mean, I was going to redo the setup and everything, all new equipment, this and that, and I was doing that. But then, like I said, with the pandemic and everything, the revenue really slowed down.
Yeah, the universe had a different plan.
Yeah, so the money that I wanted to allocate toward opening up, downstairs, for instance, there's a downstairs here that I was planning on redoing day
I'm
one.
aware of it. My dad was a bartender for a short period downstairs.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, that's funny.
I was going to ask what's going on downstairs.
Yeah, it's getting there. But it all stems from me not taking any money and then losing all the money from COVID and then thinking I had enough money to open up a place. And like you said, the universe just kind of said, nope, not happening. So some of the lessons were, like I said, I really wanted to focus on designing and building the restaurant exactly how I wanted. And that quickly had to tack in a different direction.
What about finances? You said you're gonna take care of how you paid yourself differently.
Yeah.
What does that look like now?
Again, I still don't pay myself very much, but I understand how the finances work more so. So with my bookkeeper, I understand that. No, it's not my brother. He's just kind of he's counsel. Yeah, he's my consigliere. But I now know that I can take owner's draws. I can take money. So there's a lot that I've learned in that sense, and I feel more freedom for that.
Yeah.
I still don't pay myself a hefty salary, but I still don't do a lot. But I understand that there is money that I can access.
Right. Have you ever heard of Profit First?
No.
It's Mike Kalowitz wrote the book Profit First. I work with Casey Anton out of Spark Business Consulting. She's in Massachusetts. And it's this idea of using, it's like the envelope system, like your grandmother probably did to make sure she had money to pay her bills.
Yeah.
She would get paid and she would put money aside in different envelopes to cover her liabilities. And it was like a cash flow allocation, basically. So as cash comes in, it gets allocated to different, instead of using envelopes, you use checking accounts.
Okay.
And then there's basically this idea is like you're in business to make a profit. And I think that, and I'm guilty of this, and I think the restaurant industry generally is guilty of this. Like we're like, money's bad. Like we're not here for the money. We're here for the passion of the work, the hard work. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My mission statement is literally to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. But I think that we have to be better about recognizing that in order to do that, we need to make money so we can make all those things happen, right? So you have to bake profit into your business. And profit's only used to pay off liability, debt, and to invest in assets. So you need to take money off the top, profit, and you put, so like say if you get $100,000 in the bank this month, right? 10% of that goes to profit, $10,000 in your profit account. And then the next most important thing that you have to pay is yourself. That's owner's pay.
Yeah.
You're not touching profit. Yep. That's the invest in pay off debt to invest in assets. Then you take owner's pay. Maybe that's 10% again. So you get $10,000 in your own personal checking account. Yep. Then the next most important person, arguably you should maybe even do this before you're paying yourself, is taxes. That's not your money. That belongs to the government. 15% away. Yep. And then you have employee tax or like your sales tax, right? So that's what is it now? 7.8% or something like that?
8.5.
8.5%. That goes away. So now all of your biggest liabilities, making sure you're taking a profit because that's the most important thing. You're paying the government. That's the most important thing. Your sales tax and all that. And then your owner's pay because you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself.
Yep.
Because if you're not taking care of yourself, then the business suffers.
Yep.
And then after all that, operational expenses. And what is in your operational expense account dictates how you run your business. That's your budget. This is the money I have to run my business.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, usually people are like, first you take operational expenses and then what's ever left over, you figure out.
Yep.
And then you're usually at the very bottom with owner's pay and profit.
That's right. Yep. That's what I did.
So what are you doing something similar to that now?
I at least give myself a living wage that, I'm fine. Again, I'm pretty basic. I don't go away or don't do a lot of things. Just let me have my golfing one day a week or something. Yeah. But yeah, I give myself a living wage. I am cognizant of what I spend, and for my employee, like I know my sous chef makes more money than I pay him more than I take for sure. It's not even close. But I'm also not counting the profit from the restaurant. So there is that, and again, I know how to access that.
You just have the equity in the business that you're building,
for sure,
right? If you ever wanted to sell this, you have reservations sold out for the next how many months?
There's no question. Right. That's all part of it. If someone came knocking at the door with an offer, sure, of course I think about it, just like anybody would. But I mean, I really like where I'm at right now. Right. I like where things are. I have a better understanding of money. I don't owe anything. Like I don't have debt. I'm not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't have debt.
That's huge.
It is great. So if
I'm jealous.
Yeah, I just never liked debt. I've never been comfortable with it. Again, my banker brother is like, debt's healthy. Have a healthy debt. It's good. And I just can't do it. But regardless, yeah, I think financially I've learned a lot over the years.
Did those big lessons come out of what you learned? Because I might have gotten sidetracked the whole profit first thing.
Do they come out?
No, like, did they come out in this conversation? Like, what were those lessons around finances?
So I think specifically just paying myself a livable wage was a big part of it, but also the fact that if you just keep putting money into the account and not taking any of it, you are showing that you're making a huge
way
profit.
more money. Right.
And so,
you're an expense.
Oh my God. I had to pay.
So your taxes.
Oh my God. Taxes I paid when I figured this out. And thankfully, it's a high school friend that I got connected through. So I went to school with Barreled Souls Brewers, Chris Schofield, Matt Mills. They were in business in brewing in Saco, and we'd go back and forth. And they're like, oh yeah, Derek's our accountant. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So now I have a high school friend. He's like, hey, you need to pay yourself more money because you're going to have to pay a shitload of taxes on all this profit that the restaurant is showing. And so that was a moment where I was like, damn, okay. So definitely learned that. And then another thing, this is a small, stupid little thing. I have one credit card. That's it. I just have one credit card. I pay pretty much everything for the restaurant on that card, and every single night I pay it off. I just go online and I pay it off every single night.
What does that do?
I have millions of airline miles that I could fly anywhere I wanted.
If only you had a personal life.
Yeah, I know, right? Well, yeah, for sure. So I've got that in my back pocket. But I mean, like my sous chef went to a vacation to see a friend, and I just use my miles for his tickets. If anybody else that I know is going, I can do that. And it doesn't really affect me. You know, I use that one card for everything. I don't owe any money on it. And
you're also building your credit.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Credit's fantastic.
Yeah.
I think it was like 830, you know, because I don't owe anything.
Right.
So yeah, financially, it's not my focus, but I've learned things over the years here and there for sure. I think if I ever took a step back from the kitchen and was able to really focus on money, I could make things a lot tighter. I mean, I know that right now it is the worst, and I'm sure other restaurant owners and individuals you've spoken to will agree. This is the worst I've ever seen as far as profit is concerned, because employee costs way up, inflation up, consumer goods cost way. It's just the profit is not really there right now. It's very difficult for me to make more than like a 5% profit. It feels like right now. I used to operate a much higher percentage profit. It was somewhere around like 15-16%. Whereas, you know, most restaurants are somewhere around 5, 6, 7%. And that's when I was able to make really good money.
What about percentage of owner's pay? Are you like, how do you figure out what you're going to take for owner's pay? You're saying you're paying yourself better.
Yeah, honestly, what it was is I finally had to get a new truck. I kept buying like
beaters.
Yeah, I don't like car payments.
Yeah.
So I talked with my accountant. I said, where should we be? So we agreed on like, yes, this is a good salary here, and if you need to take money, it's there. Just draw from it. So when I increased my payments, or what I was
earning,
I just wanted to offset any other costs I was incurring.
Got it.
So basically, here's my base salary. I'm picking up this payment, this payment, this payment. So let's up my yearly salary by that much, so it's even Stevens. It doesn't affect me.
Right. Because you're good through quality of life. You didn't want to take a hit on your quality of life to have a new truck.
Right. But I also understand that I lost so much money up in Brunswick, and I will not allow that to happen again. I left too much money in the bank account up there, and it just siphoned off.
Just by allocating cash.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was just too much in the account. It wasn't healthy. It was stupid to do that much. My accountant was telling me that. My bookkeeper was telling me that. And I just...
Also, do you know how great it is at the end of the year or quarterly when you're paying your taxes and the money is just there?
Yeah, it is nice.
It's just like, I put aside 15% of every dollar I earn, and it's in this. So that's how it works, is you have all these different checking accounts, right? And then twice a month, you empty your income account into the profit, owner's pay, operational expense, tax, and it's just gone. So that's the other cool thing, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, sure.
You know, like and you take your profit in your tax account and you put it in a different bank.
Yeah.
So you don't even see that the money's there because you'll pull from it.
It's the worst when it comes out for taxes. You see it coming out, but if you have it in different
Right.
accounts, you don't see it. And there's something psychologically
Right.
from that withdrawal that you see, and you're like, God damn it!
Yeah.
Like, I'm busting my ass, and there goes $6,000.
But when you file your taxes at the end of the year, you end up usually getting you have more money than you need,
Yeah.
and then you have this end of year party of like, oh sweet, I have like, and you can use that money to like throw a party for your team and stuff.
Sure.
Like it's something about the just out of sight, out of mind.
Yep.
Right. And then if you do get in a jam, you have that profit account building up. So maybe you have all of your debt paid off. You just have this money. Like it can be your get out of jail.
Yeah.
Like, oh, sweet, I had that backup, but it's out of sight, out of mind. Or what they recommend is you put that profit into a high yield savings account.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like
do
yeah.
those things, and you get what do they always say? Your money's working for you,
Right.
You know, and I didn't have any money working for me, and that was a mantra that connected with me. So I get that.
Right.
So I try not to leave extra money in the account at this point.
where would you say your biggest strengths are as a restaurateur?
I know. I'm self-deprecating to a fault for sure. I really don't think I do anything special.
Hard work.
I think it's hard work. I show up, and I've a former employee of mine. He was a sous chef. He runs a Michelin star restaurant down in Miami, and randomly he texted me the other day. But he's texted me over the time, and I said, Tyler, I didn't really get to show you that much. It was just a rat race. I was just trying to get ready every day. And he's like, no, I watched, I learned. He said, but honestly, you showed me how to work hard. He said, the value in you showing me that you get in, you own up to everything that's going on, and you get through it. He said, that's been more helpful than anything. He said, we all know how to cook. We love cooking. He said, but it's having that mental fortitude to carry on with things. So I feel pretty proud about that. But honestly, I show up, I work, and I'm collectively work.
Right.
I whether it's Caleb or Josh or Molly or Alex or whomever in the kitchen has an idea, go with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you say your biggest weaknesses as a restaurateur?
Well, finances are a big part of it.
Yeah.
Still.
Prime costs. Managing prime costs.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the reasons why I love Restaurant Systems Pro so much.
Yeah.
And they're a sponsor.
Sure.
Honestly, when Fred first approached me, I was aware of David Scott Peters, the restaurant expert.
Yep.
And that's kind of what Restaurant Systems Pro was born out of. And Restaurant Systems Pro was the operations side. So the expert, he was a consultant, and they put together like these restaurant systems, and then they created a software around all the best practices to be profitable in a restaurant. So things like costing, purchasing systems, budgeting systems, labor management systems, inventory systems.
Yep.
And then that evolved into a software as a service. And I feel like you're not alone. And if I were to open a restaurant tomorrow, I'd be right there with you, like being like let's change the world.
Yeah.
Let's I love the work.
Yep.
I love working with people. I love seeing people be happy because of the work that I'm doing, that reward of being seen and valued and appreciated for the thing you love.
Yep.
It's what drives us. Mm-hmm. And it's also like blinders and in the moment the world is awesome, then you look at the books at the end of the day and you're like, how the fuck am I gonna make this work?
Right.
I think that's why I love Restaurant Systems Pro so much, is because it almost serves like a checklist for the owner of like, here are the things you have to do, and if you're not putting these things in place, if you're not going through these systems, and it sucks at first because nobody likes doing that, but at the end of the day, it's like it almost becomes like anything else, like putting your shoes on or brushing your teeth. It's you just it's like habit. Like these are things that are habit that you have to do to be profitable.
And it's the maturation of being a restaurant owner. You can't. It's a cool philosophy to be like, I'm just going to show up and cook, man. I'm just gonna put out great food. That's awesome. But like you're saying, there has to be sustainability involved, and that's where you need to take care of yourself and the business in those types of programs that you're talking about. That's being a mature business owner, when you start to learn how to actually be a professional in that sense, not just show up and light things on fire.
Do you think we as an industry could have a better relationship with money and profit in terms of like not thinking it's horrible?
I think, I mean, for sure, there's no question. But at the end of the day, this industry is subject to so much turmoil, so much market turmoil. If the market's going bad, customers are not going to come in and spend as much money.
Right.
and there's no guarantee. It's not like the restaurant signs up for a yearly salary. If I don't open up the doors, I don't make any money. If things happen and I can't show up, I need to somehow make sure the restaurant operates. Otherwise, like if I close the restaurant for a week, it takes me well over a month to get back to where I was. But I think we could. But yes, long story. Yes, we definitely can be, by being more educated about how finances work. I think certainly. I mean, I've learned over the years. I'm better now than I was, but it's still going to be a roller coaster.
So if I fill in the blank, the restaurant industry isn't about money. It's about...
I mean, hospitality is obviously a pretty catch-all term, but really, I think it is. It's a hospitality industry for a reason.
What do you mean by hospitality? When you're giving hospitality to who? I'm inviting people into my home more or less every single night. I'm having 70 people come through the doors, and I'm cooking a dinner party for 70 people. I want the atmosphere to be perfect. I want the food to be perfect. I want the service. I want the greeting. I want everything to make somebody feel like they're relaxed, they're comfortable, and they're enjoying themselves and getting value out of what money they're spending and the time that they're spending. We're taking care of individuals. It's not just throwing food on a plate and getting money in the till. That's honestly, as you've heard through this, it's kind of the lower concern of mine. I really want people to come in and have a great experience and a memory. It's about taking care of people, giving to people.
For sure.
What do you need to do that?
Yeah, well, we need to be sustainable first and foremost. We need to have that freedom that you discussed.
And I think that's like the paradigm shift. It's like, it's not about the money. Mm-hmm. It's about your ability to be the most generous version of yourself possible, in order to give.
And there has to be a limit. I looked at some of the finances a couple months ago, and I asked Meadow, I said, what does this number mean? It was a pretty high number because it was like discounts or something. And she says, those are all the discounts you've given guests. And I'm like, holy shit. I mean, that literally is more than enough to buy a car.
Right.
And I was like,
and it pays. The more you give, the more you get.
There's a give and take, no question.
Yeah. And I think that, when people think about profit, there's like, oh, like that's, you're hoarding that. Like you're storing it away. You're being greedy. Yeah. You don't have to keep it all, but the more you make, the more you can be generous.
Yep.
The more opportunity you can provide for others, your employees, the more security you can provide your employees. So I feel like it's just it's like you can still live all of your values and make money, but what ends up happening is the more you make, the more generous you can be.
Yeah.
The more of an impact you can make on your community, the more money you can spend with your farms, And I think that just getting away from this idea that profit's bad, is because we can do so much good with it.
Yeah. The right people making money can make a world of difference, and I think those are the kind of people that you're meeting on a daily basis. And yeah, for sure, we need to make money.
So, what's your future look like? What's your vision for yourself?
I don't know. We have the downstairs area that we're opening up. We've already basically opened it up. It's going to be a cocktail lounge. I've been slowly building it out over the last 2 years. Little at a time, but now we have such a demand for guests that we've turned it into an overflow area. So we have private parties down there every single night. I am extremely reticent to just open it up because of what we've spoken about, where I wanted a smaller
Well, at least it's in the same house.
It is, for sure.
You don't have to drive down the street or to a different city.
It's still scary as shit, though, man. Like every single night down there, it's like a separate business.
Are you a mixologist?
No. So I've done everything in a restaurant, literally everything. Whether you're scrubbing toilets, you're doing dishes, you're cooking, you're doing guard, hot, whatever it is, I've done. Being a bartender is the one thing I've never, ever done. And I do that to kind of save myself, because I know once I get into it, I will shirk other duties, because I want to make sure that I know exactly how to do all of those things.
Right.
So I purposefully have kind of kept it for myself. It's a little carrot. And that's a hard part. That's that's keeping me from opening up the downstairs right now. The bars are there, everything's there.
Do you know of anybody who's looking for, like, who is a mixologist, super talented, like, is looking for their opportunity? Could you be that opportunity for somebody?
Sure. Yes, I know that there is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that one there. But yeah, we have some irons in the fire.
Yeah. What about, like, so if you, when you close your eyes and you think about your dream for yourself, your vision, if you're going through the visioning process, what are you doing every day? How much money are you making? What impact are you making on in the future?
Yeah, I think a perfect scenario for me would be being able to come in early. I'm a morning person, which doesn't really coincide with restaurant life all that well. I'd love to be up and out of the house at 6 o'clock, ready to go. Come in here, just make all the pasta, figure things out, design the menu for that day. And then midday, kind of hand the reins over to sous chef or whomever, and then just kind of be a maitre d', just kind of be around. I'm not somebody that hawks over somebody's shoulders, but I like making sure things are as they should be. So the best days for me is when we're fully staffed in the kitchen and I'm able to kind of bounce around, whether it's front of house, back of house, dish, bar, help out anywhere. Right. Because I don't say I do a lot of things great, but I have really good intuition as to where the help is needed. And if you've worked in restaurants long enough, there are some people that just can't figure it out, and then there are others that are great at it. Yeah. And so that would be really what I'm focusing on. That's what I want to move toward.
What has to happen in order for you to achieve that?
I need the inflation and shit to kind of chill out, because any extra money we're pulling in for me to have another staff member on, it's really tough right now with all of those factors. I do have it right now. I had a great fit, and so I hired somebody, young kid with a lot of passion, but it's definitely at a loss for me right now. So either I raise prices or this and that, but I'm choosing to just kind of take on that payment for my own goodwill and kind of see where it goes. I know I should be able to prognosticate a little bit better, but I really like the days when I'm able to kind of bounce around.
Yeah. What about the industry? When we think about where the industry is today, this is, like, again, the mission statement is to change the world through inspiring, empowering, and transforming the industry. What change in the world can we collectively work towards as an industry?
I may go on a different diatribe. I see. I'm kind of pessimistic in nature. I think growing up a Red Sox fan, that's just where it's at. I see the restaurant industry. Really, the pendulum is being as polarizing. The industry is polarized in the same way that politics are polarized right now. I feel like if you're not a chain restaurant, then you're a very small, independently owned restaurant. I wish there was more of a middle ground. I wish that more restaurants were not controlled by corporate offices. Again, you deal with those, and there are fine people in those situations, and they help make the world go round, no question. I just feel like independent restaurants it's an uphill battle, and I wish there was more support. You're seeing right now so many restaurants in Portland have closed recently, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth, and I see these places closing because they're independent restaurants that just can't make it. You spoke earlier about the values that some of these corporate offices have, and they're focusing on profit. They can cut prices, and I can't. They have more sustainable, more deeper pockets than I do as far as that's concerned. I wish that small restaurants could somehow get a little more support. I'm not looking for handouts. As I've said, I've already poo-pooed that. I don't want that. I don't know how that would happen, but I know that you interviewed Mel from Sunday Supper, and she started something from ground up as well. Small situation. I don't have a backer. I don't have anybody helping me out in that way.
What I do love about her story is that she started where she could. I think you started where you could. And I think that's a big lesson. Is I think we have it in our mind as restaurateurs that we're not legitimate until we have a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
And I think she had a barn.
Yeah, right, pretty much, right.
Yep. And so you can start where you are. And I think there's also different business models. Like we're so caught in this like what we like the traditional model of like if you're making 10% profit, you're doing something good. But you're just charging a percentage of profit on top of whatever your costs are, your labor, your prime costs, right? Your rent. Like we're just going to charge a little bit more so we can make some money.
Sure.
But why not? Like you have like this incredible, like you have an asset, man. Your knowledge, your skill, your passion. Like what's stopping you from doing some type of like subscription where like you teach people how to make pasta or you're making pasta every day. Why not have a subscription model where people like, what's stopping you from making a little extra pasta and then have people pay you to come pick up your weekly pasta supply or your monthly subscription model? I think getting outside of the traditional model and saying like, hey, like we're already doing these units of work. How can we create another layer of revenue off the work we're already doing to get that other steady element of cash flow coming in?
I think a lot of it up to the owner, the individual that's calling those shots. I'm just not as comfortable, and as we've discussed here, I need to do a better job about delegating and allowing myself the freedom to do those things. Right. Whereas I see myself as a worker bee. I don't see myself a queen bee. I don't have anybody telling me what to do.
Right.
I tell myself what I'm going to do. But at the same time, I haven't allowed myself the luxury to step back and start little projects like that. We've discussed them ad nauseum. Josh and I and Caleb, we've talked about opening up an extra day and this and the shifts. I'm just slow growth.
I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I meant to mention this earlier in the whole reason why I started this podcast was to learn from successful restaurateurs. What are you doing so I can pay those lessons forward to the next generation so we can get out of this cycle, so we can do what you said we need to do, build that place, that middle ground, that between being a single unit operator, small mom and pop, and a corporation. What's that middle ground look like? How can we close the gap?
Yeah.
I think we do that by sharing knowledge. I think we do that by lifting each other up, by making it easier through inspiration and empowerment to build up those that middle ground.
Sure.
Like, what is that? Like a small restaurant group that has anywhere from like 1 to 20 like units. Is like that a big corporation?
Well, I mean, when you go out to eat, do you think about, okay, this is a chain restaurant or not? Is that something that you consider?
I mean, I try to, honestly, I usually don't have I usually eat off of the donation from the people who cook for me because I'm broke myself. I really try to find those small restaurants, but I do understand the appeal of traveling and knowing like, oh, I recognize that brand. I'm going to go there.
You're going to get that. Yeah.
Right.
It makes sense. I don't disagree with any of that. I think instead of me writing bad reviews or anything about where I go, I just try and be more conscientious of where my money's going. I don't have a problem giving my money to corporate stuff. I mean, we all do it every day, whether we know we're doing it or not.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
They don't want you to know when you're doing it.
Bank. Right. So I'm fine with that. But if there's a time to go out to eat somewhere, I try and think, where can my money help the most?
Right.
And where can I maybe, subconsciously almost push a cause,
or very consciously, try to push that cause,
for sure.
Override your instinct. So it's weird because I love studying human behavior. I think that the answer to our future is studying our past and trying to figure out how we evolved to be this hunter gatherer, small, tight group. Like that's what we are. We're tribal, we only evolved to be able to handle a maximum amount of 150 relationships. And beyond that, it gets too much. We can't manage it. But I think what's interesting in like the 80s and the 90s with like the syndication of cable and like all this stuff, we went from being in small communities where we were kind of like in our own little pockets, like micro markets all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think we're hardwired as humans to go with the most recommended thing, the best in town, right? And that is usually driven by word of mouth. And word of mouth, I think, is still to this day king. But I think what's happened is we went from, have you heard of Seth Godin?
Yeah.
So Seth Godin wrote the book Purple Cow. In that book, he talks about the difference between number one in a market and number two in a market is that usually number one does about 100% more business than number two. And then if you're number 3, 4, or 5, good luck. That works when you're in a small community of like 5,000 people, 10,000 people. Or even in a city with like smaller like pockets in that city, like what do they call it? Boroughs, right? You don't go over the bridge. You stay in your walking distance from like, and you can have, every borough can have its own market, like its own cafe, its own bakery, its own burger spot.
Yeah.
But when you start getting to the point where we are in a national market now, or even a global market, those rules of human nature still apply where we're going to go with number one.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue. That's like, we are hardwired to go with the best, and we are in a national or state or global market. So like there's less room for number ones. There's fewer number ones today than there ever was. So the rich are getting richer, you know? So I think we almost have to be aware of that so we can choose to go with the number one in our market.
But the number one in our market may not be from that market. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is that some of these number ones in the town are now national products that have come in, and they don't have the same characteristic as what was here before.
What they do have is marketing.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of it. And I mean, I'll be the first to say it. I'm terrible at marketing.
Well, you do four walls marketing really well.
What's that?
Four walls marketing.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I guess so, for sure. Yeah. But I mean, that's not quite
I hear
enough.
you. But it's hard to compete with the people that have a 40% marketing budget. And that's where all their profit goes, into making the most noise. And I think that's why I say things like marketing is the bane of human existence. When I say that, I'm not saying marketing, you shouldn't do it. I'm just thinking that if you're good at it and you have the money to do it, you can come off as the best because you have the resources to convince people that you are.
Yeah, I want towns to have their own personality. And when bigger companies come in, doesn't have to be a national chain or anything, but when bigger companies come in and they're changing, and that's not a bad thing. Some towns need a personality change, you know, but they change the fabric of that community. And I really like the smaller businesses that exactly that kind of
I'm gesturing, but we'll keep that to ourselves.
But yeah, I think I love Italian food, and I love going to Italy because from one town to the next, it's completely different. From one region to another, it's entirely different. And the Italian government and the Italian people are steadfast in that not changing. And that comes off sometimes as nationalistic, and that can have negative connotations. At the same time, like I talked about at the beginning, those slow cities, they want to protect their personality and their character.
I think it's a C word.
A C word.
It's a C word, not the C word.
Okay.
It's culture. It's their culture, and their culture
and they want to keep it.
Goes deep, and it goes back.
Yep.
You know, it's about taking care of your community. It's about taking care of each other. And you mentioned like what's happening in the world of politics right now, and like I'm a very middle of the ground political person.
Sure.
I see benefits of left and right.
Absolutely.
But what drives me crazy is how much of the narrative is being gobbled up by shit that's important. Not saying that it's not important, but it's not nearly as important as what we're talking about right now. Like there are bigger issues in the world that I think through focusing on those bigger issues, like where are we getting our food, how are we supporting local businesses, that stuff will bring us together because we'll realize that we have more in common than we do in difference, you know? I think it's focusing on what we have in common will bring us together, you know? It doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your gender is. It doesn't, like, I'm not saying those things aren't important.
Sure.
And I think we could evolve to be better to recognize those things.
Yeah.
But there's such a bigger issue that nobody's talking about. And it drives me crazy. It's like, why are we wasting time talking about this shit when if we focus on what matters, it will bring us together. It will make us love each other more.
I'd like that to happen, and I do think that I'm trying to do that here.
Yeah.
Not to bring everything back to the restaurant, but yeah, I'm trying. I mean, I'm passing on my values through food, and I hope that the experience that people have, they can recognize some of those values, and perhaps they go to one of the farms and they buy something at a farm instead of going to Hannaford for everything. I hope that's the case, and I think that's what you're kind of trying to do with your podcast, is trying to get the world to see that restaurants can incite change. And I think one of the changes that I'm trying to do is, other than just teaching proper Italian regional cuisine, is to teach how we can use local products and be healthier about it.
Right. And I think one thing that I picked up from today's conversation that I want to bring to the service is that there is no one right way to run a restaurant. There is no one universal common, this is one thing I picked up on you, and what matters to you is doing the work and being able to do the work you love. Mm-hmm. And that's your rendition of success, being able to have the freedom of time, money, relationships, and purpose. Mm-hmm. And that's liberty, we should all have those freedoms to do what we want with who we want, when we want, and to have enough financial freedom to cover our most basic liabilities, our most basic securities, food, shelter, insurance. And you can do that at $50,000, $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
And if you focus on those things that really matter, those liberties, those freedoms, you can be very happy. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a common narrative in America where it's about profit. It's about how much money can you make. And I think that it's like crack cocaine. You'll never get enough. It's like alcohol. You'll get to that point where you're getting your hits, and then you're going to acclimate to that amount of alcohol, and you're going to need a fourth drink, a fifth drink, a sixth drink. And you will never be happy because you will never get enough. But if you focus on those freedoms, autonomy, that will fill your cup. You can achieve happiness, to be able to grow, to learn, to build, to lift up other people, to be seen. Those are the things that matter.
Mm-hmm. And I think,
I just want to say, I see that's what matters to you.
Well, I'm glad that that's coming off. Yeah. I mean, you say it a lot more eloquently than I do, but I'm glad for that. But yeah, I think ultimately, I love coming here, and I get to my favorite time is on a Saturday night or maybe another night. Lights are off. I just get to sit down at the bar by myself and just think, and just kind of be like, wow, this is what I'm doing. I get to come in here every day, open the doors up and redesign everything and create and craft things that I want. Nobody's telling me this. Nobody's telling me that. It's a pretty good life, and I think through that trust that I'm putting out a product that people are willing to pay for. I don't get bogged down in the financial things. Admittedly, I need to do a better job of that, but I just sit back and I just trust what I'm doing is the right thing. And so far that's worked out for me. Maybe not the best model for everybody, but like you said, we want every restaurant to have a personality, and I think it should be the personality of the owner. And so I'm hoping those things come across when guests come here.
I love it, man. So I want to ask you a question, one more question before we wrap up for the day. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. Yep. All the memories of you, your work, your restaurants would be lost with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and your legacy. What would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
3 pieces of wisdom regarding this restaurant.
Not just your restaurant, but your life.
But life. I think not taking yourself so seriously is a big part of what we do. That would be wonderful. I think being creative, that can go in a million different directions, but being creative, whether it's with food or in life, just allowing your mind to just kind of explore other areas. It keeps things fresh and exciting, is very big. But also it sounds a little ridiculous, but again, as I said, my mother passed away on Monday.
I'm so sorry to hear that again.
It's been a brutal week, and it puts things into perspective. So we are, that's where I am right now. Being able to have time for family and life. It's something I really haven't done for the past 2 decades. And since this week, it's been very real that I need to chill out a little bit and think like a grown adult how to foster a business so that allows me the freedom to not be here and visit family more often. As we all are, when somebody passes, we always wish we could have done more or said more or been with them longer. And knowing that I'm not able to go see my mother again is brutal. And I wish that all the times I said, I'm going to finish prep and head over and have lunch with you, I wish I did it. I can't, but going forward, I'm hoping that I can build that into my schedule a little bit more. So, I mean, I guess that can be distilled down to family.
So creativity, time for family. What was the first one?
Not taking yourself too seriously.
Not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah, I think, again, there are restaurants that you visit that are very, very centered around what they do, and they take it very seriously. I don't need nominations of this or awards of that. When I do charity events, I don't care if anybody, I just want to help them out.
Remember when I said marketing is the bane of human existence? All that shit is marketing. It's vanity. It's bullshit. We want that so we can drive revenue to our business, and it does. And I think that those organizations have way too much influence.
Yeah. I haven't put one single dollar to marketing here. But again, we market in different ways, right? I mean, I post things on Instagram every now and again. That's marketing, but it's free nowadays. But
this has been a lot of fun.
I'm big into it, so I appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you, Tim. This has been a lot of fun. And who do you respect and admire? I found you. Paul Callahan called you out.
Oh, yeah.
Who do you know who's doing it right? Who has the values? Who's running a profitable business? Who has lessons they can pay forward to the next generation to help them have the same success?
I mean, I spoke about Nikki earlier from Stock. I don't know her very well, but we know each other enough to go back and forth with Instagram messages or whatnot. I really admire the way that she runs her business from a few different standpoints. She takes time off. She's not always there, and she does what needs to be done. She changes her menu. I like her business model a lot. And I do admire that a lot.
Yeah.
So I think if there's one that I kind of focus on, I would say her.
I think I had her on the show like within the past couple of years. So I think I might give that 2 or 3 more years for a story to develop, to see how she's grown and transformed her business.
Yeah.
But she was always welcome back in the future for sure. I'd love to reconnect with her. And that's kind of where I'm trying to go with this podcast is it's not about feeding new relationships. It's about bringing back the greatest hits, going deeper. I think I had Chef Callahan on the show last week, and the first time I spoke to him was 7 years ago.
Oh,
no, what's happened in his career?
I didn't know that you spoke with him previously.
Yeah, like 7 years. Like he's done so much.
So different, yeah.
And I feel like he's finally getting the recognition he deserves.
Oh,
so,
no question about it.
Yeah.
I mean, what they put out is amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's also an interesting thing to do, to revisit other people, maybe see where they are, and
I think it would be good for my soul, honestly, to be able to go to cities I've been in the past and to not meet new people, but reconnect with old people and to make stronger relationships. Not, like I said, we can only handle about 150. Being more intentional with the people that I want to develop relationships deeper with.
So that's great.
This has been a lot of fun. This is episode 1125. You can so if you want to find this episode, just search Restaurant Unstoppable 1125. And I mean, I can't do what I do without people like you being so willing to get vulnerable, to get open, to share numbers, to share weaknesses, to share strengths. It's not easy to do, and I just want to say, like, you make it possible, and there is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Cheers.